What I've been reading. I've been reading The Archer, written by Paulo Coelho. And here's the official synopsis. In The Archer, we meet Tetsuya, a man once famous for his prodigious gift with a bow and arrow, but who has since retired from public life, and the boy who comes searching for him. The boy has many questions, and in answering them, Tetsuya illustrates the way of the bow and the tenets of a meaningful life. Paulo Coelho's story suggests that living without a connection between action and soul cannot fulfill, that a life constricted by fear of rejection or failure is not a life worth living. Instead, one must take risks, build courage, and embrace the unexpected journey fate has to offer. Then it goes on to say, with the wisdom, generosity, simplicity, and grace that have made him an international bestseller, Paulo Coelho provides the framework for a rewarding life. Hard work, passion, purpose, thoughtfulness, the willingness to fail, and the urge to make a difference. And Paulo Coelho, for those of you that don't know, is the author of one of my favorite books, which is The Alchemist. It's a book that has sold something like over 80 million copies worldwide, translated into dozens of languages in different territories. And it's a book that I've revisited multiple times, and each time get something else from it. And I would imagine it's going to continue to be like this, throughout life, or my life rather, revisiting the story and seeing it from the point of view of a different character. Because at different stages in your life, as is common, I guess, with books, you can go back and you're at a different stage in your life, so you resonate with a different character. So you see the entire story from a different point of view, and you get different things from it. And the book is an allegory on life, as is this book, The Archer. And I heard of The Archer after reading The Alchemist, but I never checked it out. But it's something that just kept popping up. Either I heard people mention it on different podcasts, or I would just randomly get it in my inbox, like from a newsletter, or just read a blurb of, this is like worth reading, etc. And I decided to finally check it out, and I'm glad I did. First off, it's a super quick read. The paperback is, I believe, 160 pages, according to Amazon. And the audiobook, which is where I listened, is less than an hour long. So you could digest the entire thing in one sitting. As always, I'm going to share a couple different clips with you all that resonated with me and speak to them a bit.
The best allies are those who do not think like everyone else. That is why when you seek companions with whom you can share your enthusiasm for archery, trust your intuition and pay no attention to what anyone else may say. People always judge others by taking as a model their own limitations, and other people's opinions are often full of prejudice and fear. Join with all those who experiment, take risks, fall, get hurt, and then take more risks. Stay away from those who affirm truths, who criticize those who do not think like them, people who have never once taken a step unless they were sure they would be respected for doing so, and who prefer certainties to doubts.
And I think we could all use like a healthy mix of that type of advice, a healthy balance of that type of advice, if you will. Like he mentions, which is definitely true, I know for myself and for others as well, that people's opinions, again, including my own, are full of your own biases, your own prejudices, your own fears, and you tend to project that onto others, whether you're well-intentioning or not. Not in a negative way. It's just that you come with your own baggage, and your outlook is shaped by your experiences, and again, your fears and your insecurities, etc. And that all is part of the cacophony that is the advice that you give someone. And it's important to be weary of that and understand that. And that type of concept is where, like a saying, like, take it with a grain of salt comes from, like, don't take everything on face value. And I also like the advice of, joining more with like the risk takers versus the folks that are only do things that they are sure of what the outcome is going to be. And if that outcome, pleases the masses, etc. And this is something to take within reason, right? It's not like, join with the risk takers that are about to rob the bank, and, take a big risk with their freedoms and stuff like that. And on the flip side, being an overanalyzing freak such as myself, I understand the pitfalls that come along with that, but also know that being that way has also served me. So there's positives and negatives to everything, which is why I take this advice and synthesize it rather to apply it to my own life in terms of a healthy mix of both. Here's the next one.
The bow is life, the source of all energy. The arrow will leave one day. The target is a long way off. But the bow will stay with you, and you must know how to look after it. It requires periods of inaction. A bow that is always armed and braced loses its strength. Therefore, allow it to rest, to recover its firmness. Then, when you draw the bowstring, the bow will be content, with all its strength intact.
And going back to what I said before, listening to something like this, I can already see how at, different times in my life or, in different moods that I might be in, it'll affect the way I take that in and think of that like metaphor. Like, what is the bow? Is the bow a metaphor for life? Is the bow a metaphor for your body? And, hence I'm speaking about the importance of periods of rest and recovery, so your body can be as strong as powerful. And then if that's the case, what is the arrow? Is the arrow your soul that will one day leave your body? It's interesting food for thought. And it makes you understand why the New York Times is quoted as calling Paulo Coelho a novelist who writes in a universal language. And we're seeing it here, right? Like he doesn't write, I don't believe he writes in English. He's Brazilian, if I'm not mistaken. So I would imagine he writes in Portuguese. But that universality comes through, and the fact that his books get translated in dozens of different languages. Anyway, here's the next one.
The arrow is the intention. It is what unites the strength of the bow with the center of the target. The intention must be crystal clear, straight, and balanced.
So I'll cut that one off there. It can obviously be taken literally, and it is applicable to archery itself, right? Like from a technique perspective. But again, in going with the allegory for life and the metaphor that the arrow is your intention, like what you put out there, if the bow is you, if the bow is a representation of you, your body, etc., the arrows are what comes out of you. Think your art, think the way you speak, the way you treat people, so on and so forth. I can definitely appreciate the concept behind your intention needing to be crystal clear and balanced and focused so that it can properly achieve its desired target.
The archer learns when he forgets all about the rules of the way of the bow and goes on to act entirely on instinct. In order, though, to be able to forget the rules, it is necessary to respect them and to know them. When he reaches this state, he no longer needs the instruments that helped him to learn. He no longer needs the bow or the arrows or the target, because the path is more important than the thing that first set him on that path. In the same way, the student learning to read reaches a point when he frees himself from the individual letters and begins to make words out of them.
Now, what jumped out to me from that clip, and I think that's the last one I'm going to be sharing with you guys, I'll double check in a second, but what jumped out to me immediately was the idea of knowing the rules and learning the rules so that then you can break them and make whatever it is that you're working on your own. And that's a common thing that I've read and I've heard in advice from writers, whether it be with screenplays or writing TV shows, which I guess technically are screenplays, and writing novels. I think Stephen King actually on writing spoke to this as well, which is that concept of learn the rules so that you know them. You have this like strong foundation, or sturdy foundation rather, so that then you can break them. And that's when you like truly come into your own. that's when you'll find your voice. And again, folks listening to this, you might listen to that. You might not be into writing. You would be able to take that and apply that to some other craft, or just to concepts of life and how to carry yourself and how to live in general. And actually, I have one more. So at the end of the story, the boy who seeks out this archer, the archer agreed to like teach him the ways of the bow, under the condition that afterwards he would never speak to anyone of their encounter. And anybody that asks, hey, did you ever find that archer you were looking for? He tells them no. And he makes sure that nobody else, by doing so, he makes sure that nobody else comes out like seeking the archer who wants this like peaceful hermit-like life. So at the end, after teaching him the way of the bow, the boy is reluctant to leave. And that's where this clip picks up.
How can I know if I'm doing the right thing? How can I be sure that my eyes are concentrating, that my posture is elegant, that I'm holding the bow correctly? Visualize the perfect master always by your side, and do everything to revere him and to honor his teachings. This master, who many people call God, although some call him the thing and others talent, is always watching us. He deserves the best.
And I thought that to be such a useful tool. And I guess this is where like folks that are religious, lean on religion. And like he mentions in this, other folks, call something like this talent, or like Stephen Pressfield refers to the muse as, like the writing gods that he's like an antenna for when it comes to his writing. And it's such a useful tool to, I guess, kind of sort of put the responsibility on some external force, when it comes to like art and creativity and expressing yourself, and, not bogging yourself down with the pressures of that and just allowing things to flow. It's like such a good tool to use and an interesting way to look at it and to go about doing things that seems both ethereal and practical at the same time. And I kind of liken it to a child or a kid like wanting to do something to impress their parents or to make their parents proud. So I definitely thought that was a good way to, a good tool to like internalize and apply as needed, where when you're embarking on a project, on a new story, or whatever it is that is your thing, and you're kind of like hesitant and gun shy about it, and damn, am I going to be good enough or not? Picture that perfect master standing by you and do your best, give it your all, and make it happen in a way that'll make him or her proud. And that, folks, is what I've been reading. The Archer by Paulo Coelho. I'll link to it in the episode notes. It's a great read. I highly recommend it. Check it out.